Acting Public Relations Manager at the National Water Commission NWC, Sadiq Brooks, says a significant decline in rainfall has contributed to water restrictions imposed on some customers in the corporate area. She was speaking on Nationwide at 5 on Monday.
We are not getting the level of rainfall that we are accustomed to over the years. Again, for May and June, which are traditionally rainy months, we didn't get the expected rainfall. We're getting some rain, So I think persons think that because we're getting a little rain, it is enough. But we're not getting significant rainfall to put us at a level that is comfortable. And we're going again into July and August, which are traditionally drier as well. So it won't be until about September, October before we see a lot of rainfall again. But it's not a case where we haven't been doing anything and we're on this cycle where every year we come and we say we have a restriction.
Customers served by the NWC's Mona and Hope facilities in St. Andrew will be supplied between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. daily. The restrictions took effect on Monday. According to the NWC, the move comes as storage levels continue to decline rapidly. Up to last Saturday, the storage level at the Mona Reservoir was 66%. The Hope water treatment plant has also been impacted by limited inflows. Ms. Brooks says water will be trucked to residents where necessary.
It's a challenge. I wouldn't say persons are unreasonable. Really and truly, everyone wants water. We all want water. I want water. I'm also affected by the regulations right now. But the reality is that we just aren't getting the amount of rainfall that we need, and we rely heavily on surface water sources. So if there's no rain, we have a challenge. And to be fair, we have other sources, So in terms of we use our wells and so on, but for especially Mona, the water will come from Yalas and Hope River. So if there's, as I said, no rain, we have a serious challenge. So, as I said, we are doing work. What we encourage customers to do is to store water during their supply period.
Sadiq Brooks, Acting Public Relations Manager at the NWC. And Ms. Brooks listed some of the communities which will be impacted by the water restrictions.
So persons, if they want to get the specific, it's on our website, nwcjamaica.com. But in terms of the areas that would be affected, like I can give you some of the areas that would be. So the Mona system, you have Mona Heights, Crossroads, Mountain View, Old Hope Road, Hope Flat, Papine, Gordon Town, Beverly Hills, Virginia, Mona Road, Devon Square, Waterloo Road, Catcher Park, Eastwood Park Road, Halfway Tree Road, Upper Maxfield Avenue, Vineyard Town, Manly Meadows, Windward Road, Glenmore Road, South Camp Road, Franklin Town, Downtown Kingston, and Harborview. And the Hope system serves generally Hope Pastures, Mona Ligani, sections of Barbican, Kintyre, Gordon Town, Mona Heights, Goldsmith Villa, and Augustown.
Sadiq Brooks, Acting Corporate Public Relations Manager at NWC. The government says it's moving to enhance water supply in St. Anne through the Brownstown to Retreat pipeline project and the establishment of a new well at Minard in the parish. Prime Minister Andrew Holness broke ground on the pipeline project last Friday, noting that substantial progress is being made to improve the water infrastructure across St. Anne.
This is a big deal. It's a big thing for the people of Retreat. Let's be frank. There are many communities in Jamaica that do not have potable water, meaning water that is carried through a municipal supply, through pipes, through your house, that you can use for your domestic and sanitary chores. And to drink, you may have to find all kinds of means to secure your water. Some of you have to buy it and store it in tanks. So when a government can announce that it is going to connect a community and over 1,500 persons will benefit from that connection, it's a big deal for that community. We want you to be able to go into your bathroom, turn on the pipe, and say, shower.
The $29 million project will see the laying of 4 kilometers of 4-inch PVC pipes connecting the supply in Brownstown to Retreat. The works will provide formal piped water to over 1,500 residents of Retreat for the first time. The Prime Minister also notes that the new well at Minard will significantly improve water availability and increase supply.
Not far from here, we have just now established a new well at Minard to replace the one that was done how many decades ago. When it went down, the people of Brownstown and surrounding communities were without water supply, and it was a miserable time. So it's a big deal for the government to demonstrate to the people that when the utility service goes down and there's such a fundamental break, that the government responds And now the people of Brownstown will be pleased that before, the old well would have delivered between 1 and 2 million gallons. When I spoke to the technical people commissioning the new well, they tell me that you can get now between 2 and 3 million gallons in this new well. So there is more water supply for this area.
Andrew Holness, Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister has pushed back against the claim that the absence of proper water infrastructure in some parts of the island is due to a lack of care by his administration.
Many of these communities have sprung up over time, long before there were any plans to put water supply in. Some of these communities have grown beyond what the water supply was when they were formed. Some of these communities are unplanned. We only hear about them. We didn't know they were even there. So we have to bring water to them now. Some of these communities are in remote parts where to bring the water is going to be very costly. But the government cares. The government has a commitment to bring water based upon our policy to every single Jamaican.
According to the Prime Minister, the government is committed to commissioning new water systems and laying new pipelines.
The utility supply gives you a certain certainty, yes, and it establishes a certain quality. That is what the utility means. And it means the government is responsible for either regulating or providing. In this case, the government has a dual role. We regulate the water supply through the OUR, and we supply the water through the NWC, separate governance, but still a part of the government. In other circumstances, we have small water supply systems which are not connected to the NWC. Government still regulates it. Maybe the parish council will supply it. But for this one that we are celebrating today, this is part of the utility. So we are expanding the NWC's utility supply.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness. A detective sergeant who inspected the location where chartered accountant Keith Clark was killed says more than 60 firearms were handed in for ballistics testing following the incident. The policeman's statement was read out in court on Monday as the trial continues for 3 JDF soldiers charged with murdering Clark inside his home in St. Andrew in 2010. Dana Davey reports.
Keith Clark was killed during a military operation on May 27, 2010, at his home at Upper Kirkland Heights in St. Andrew. The operation was in search of then-fugitive Christopher Dudus Coke. 3 JDF soldiers, Lance Corporal Greg Tinglin, Corporal Odell Buckley and Private Arnold Henry, have been on trial for the murder since May 14 this year. In Monday's sitting, details of the detective sergeant's statement were read out in the Home Circuit Court. The policeman said at the time of Clark's murder, he was attached to the JCF's Bureau of Special Investigations. Upon visiting the crime scene, the detective sergeant said the house was riddled with what appeared to be bullet holes. The detective sergeant said he also observed Clark's body in the master bedroom. He said Clark's body was then transported to Madden's funeral home for a post-mortem examination. In June 2010, the policeman said he visited the JDF's Up Park camp where he was shown several firearms in a pickup truck. The cache of firearms include 33 rifles, 29 pistols, and 2 other guns. The detective sergeant said the hands of JDF soldiers involved in the shooting were also swabbed for testing. The trial will resume on Tuesday morning. Dana Davey for Nationwide News.
PNP General Secretary Dr. Dayton Campbell says he will not apologize to East St. Thomas MP, the JLP's Dr. Michelle Charles, over what he sees as legitimate questions about her renunciation of her U.S. citizenship. Dr. Campbell says the former PNP MP and candidate in East St. Thomas, Dr. Fenton Ferguson, will be pursuing the matter in court.
We've asked the question of Dr. Michelle Charles, if she is an American citizen, the answer to the question is yes or no. The person that she ran against in the 2020 elections, Dr. Fenton Ferguson, has initiated proceedings to take the matter to court for the court to decide on. It has not yet been put before it, but he has initiated the process with his lawyers to put the matter before the court so the court can decide on the matter.
The attorney representing Dr. Charles, Abe Dabdoob, says his firm was consulted concerning what she views as defamatory allegations and innuendo mounted against her by Dr. Campbell and members of the PNP. These involved questioning the legitimacy of her election to the House of Representatives. Dr. Charles has repeatedly told Nationwide News that she is fully Jamaican. In the letter, Dabdoob says contrary to the PNP's allegations and innuendo, the MP was duly and validly elected. He says Dr. Charles was a citizen of Jamaica residing in the country for more than 12 months before her nomination. The letter says her allegiance is and was to Jamaica only in keeping with the oath taken at the time of her swearing in as an MP. Dabdoob has demanded that Dr. Campbell publicly apologize for the allegations about Dr. Charles, but Dayton Campbell says he will not.
I wouldn't apologize for asking a question that I think is appropriate and in the public's interest. The question has yet to be answered, by the way.
Dr. Dayton Campbell, PNP General Secretary. PNP Vice President Ian Hales has been warned that he will face a defamation lawsuit from Member of Parliament for Western Westmoreland, the JLP's Moreland Wilson, if he does not apologize and remove offending content posted online. Wilson's attorney, Donahue Martin, issued the caution in a letter sent to Ian Hales on June 13. In the letter, Hales is accused of defaming Moreland Wilson. Hales and his agents have been instructed to cease and desist from publishing defamatory content about Wilson. The allegations center around the distribution of black tanks in Westmoreland. Hales alleged that Wilson corruptly distributed the tanks to a businessman, but the businessman came forward and provided receipts which confirmed that he purchased the items from a private entity. The businessman also complained of receiving death threats arising from Hales's allegations. A section of Washington Boulevard in St. Andrew in the vicinity of Dairy Industries will be temporarily closed today until 9 p.m. The National Works Agency says the closure is to facilitate remedial pavement works at the site. The Manager of Communication and Customer Services at NWA, Stephen Shaw, says the targeted sections of the roadway have fallen into disrepair in recent months. The closure will affect westbound lanes heading towards 6 miles. Mr. Shaw says single-line traffic usage will be in effect during the period of work. The NWA says the thoroughfare is due to be reopened on Wednesday, June 26 at 5 a.m. Professor of Sustainable Development at the Mona campus of the University of the West Indies, Anthony Clayton, says the continued steady decline in murders overall across the country is encouraging. The latest figures from the JCF show an 11% drop in murders between January 1 and June 22 this year when compared to the corresponding period in 2023. While murders are down, the JCF is reporting that shootings have increased by 4%, coming in at 517 incidents so far this year. Professor Clayton says a closer look at the numbers show that murders and serious crimes are up in a third of all police divisions.
Overall, the level of serious crime is down 8.9%, which is very encouraging. And as the homicide rate is down by nearly 12%. But when you look at the profile, it's a much more complicated picture because the level of serious crime was actually up in 6 of the police divisions, down in 13. So in about 1/3 of our police divisions, the level of serious crime is actually going up, not down. And it's a very similar pattern with homicide. In about 2/3 of the police divisions, the level of homicide is going down, and in 1/3 it's going up. You also have to take into account the level of shootings. Now, the level of shootings overall is actually up by 4.5%. And this effect seems to be split out evenly across the country. So it's down in about 9 divisions and up in about 9 divisions.
Professor Clayton says it's hard to pinpoint what accounts for the reduction in murders and shootings based on the data at the divisional level.
What this suggests is that it's going to be very difficult to attribute this change to any one variable, like, for example, more police, investment in technology, because you would expect that to affect right across the board. You wouldn't expect to see this affecting some divisions but not others. Unless there's something else, there has to be some other factor here. One possibility is that the technology is not being rolled out evenly, and that what we're seeing is a reduction in those divisions where it's being most intensively applied. But certainly we can't look at the numbers and say, no, this is definitely the result of investment in technology, investment in training, or recruiting more officers. Something going on here that we haven't yet quite put our finger on.
Anthony Clayton, Professor of Sustainable Development at the Mona campus of the UWI. Overseas news now. After a long wait and many delays, the first contingent of the Kenyan-led international force is on its way to Haiti. 400 police personnel left the East Africa country on Tuesday and are en route to the Caribbean. It's expected to be the first batch of the 1,000 personnel Kenya has agreed to send to help stabilize the country, where gangs have been jockeying for power since the assassination of President Jovenel Moise in 2021. Sources at the Interior Ministry and inside Kenya's police force confirmed on Monday that departure was set for Tuesday.